This is Sean Harrison, art director of Supernerd, and you're in my headquarters, and I'm with MAKADREZ. Welcome. Who is Sean Harrison? Off gate, I'm a country boy. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. I am a mama's boy. I am a creative. I'm at times a hot mess. I am indecisive. And the journey to figuring out who Sean is and who I am is still ongoing. I'm much more than a number of terms that I throw to you, but I'm somebody who has gone from this small town of Charlotte, North Carolina, and come to this big world of New York, trying to make something of my life, trying to make something of me, and trying to give these gifts that God has given to me and make them make sense for not only me, but for the world and my journey in life. All right, Supernerd came about 2012 after I was just frustrated with working for other people, doing exactly what they wanted to do and how they wanted to do it. It was time for me to take what I learned and move in my own direction and try to make something of everything that everyone has given to me. Before Supernerd, I started off at MTV. It was a mixture of motion graphics and art directing, stuff like VMAs, movie awards. Then I moved on to NBC, and that's when it was time for me to actually start on my own. I had a few clients from NBC. That was actually my first thing, and then after that I moved on to one of my biggest loves, which is music. What is Supernerd? It's basically a production company. It is me. I am Supernerd as well as my company. As much of me is put into it as it is an entity, a LLC, all of that stuff. Basically, I created a company that encompasses everything I do. Because I'm a musician, I am a person that loves computers. I'm a person that when I was young, I used to take things apart, all my toys, anything that moved, take apart, tinker with it, put it back together, make something new. But all of that came to become Supernerd because I tried to figure out how can I put all these different skill sets that I have that might not be things that are supposed to go together and actually make them work together, and that's what became Supernerd. When I was young, and still now, I was a nerd. I was called a nerd, and what ultimate F you than to take something that people put you down with and say that, yeah, I am that, but I am that and more. I'm a super nerd. I'm not just a nerd, I am that nerd, so have that. 3 words to define super nerd would be juxtaposition. Juxtaposition because, like I said, I love putting together things that just aren't supposed to work together, but somehow they actually work together. I would say creative. That's something that I long to be. Something making nothing, taking nothing and making something of it is basically the closest thing that you can try to be to God, because He is the ultimate creator, and I long to be that, and that's a part that I put into my company. And the last word to define my company would be successful. I mean, that's what we all can hope to be. We don't know what it is. It's some ambiguous term, but it's something that we all seek to be, and that's what I'm trying to do. Well, a lot of people don't know what art directing is. For someone who doesn't know, basically we are the people, because there's the creative director and the art director. They can work head to head together to make a project come Across R, it could be the creative director who's the lead. They're the person that works with the budgets, with the client, to get exactly where the project is going to lead and how it's going to lead there and how can it stay within budget and who can we bring on to it. And then there's art director that works with the creatives, that take those creatives and gives the best advice to them to make the most out of the project visually. We are the visual people. So there's the creative, the person that has the idea that this can be this could be a green apple or a red apple or whatever, and we're the person that says that this apple needs to look like this, it needs to have this lighting, it needs to be on there for 2 seconds and transition this way. So we're basically the people that brings whatever creative vision there is and makes it look like something, and that's what art directing is in my head. So there was no set plan, there was nothing in place to where I had it in mind, already set up. This is the end result, me having a company, because in New York, that's not even something that was in the back thought of my mind. But during the time, there had just become so much stuff working for someone else that it just didn't make sense. So I was like, I'm going to take a leap of faith. There were other people while I was working for people that kept putting bugs in my ear that I have a project that you would be great on. I have something that we need somebody like you, and if you can lead it and head it and make it look like something, then I have budgets for you. Oh, there's this other world out there that I don't necessarily need a boss, or I can be my own boss. And so that actually was the transition, everyone coming to me and seeing me as something that's worthwhile for whatever they had going. So that was the transition, just cutting it off. And sometimes that's the scariest thing to do, but sometimes you just gotta cut it off. Basically, my first client was, big client was Chris Brown. I was with him for about 2 years, on and off, doing Grammys, Billboard Awards, Dancing with the Stars, then Busta Rhymes, CeeLo. It's just been a number of people. The biggest challenge that I faced in my journey was basically a year. The second year that I was even a company, because we know that businesses and running your own thing, having your own thing is difficult. And that year for me, every project, big projects, very big projects at the time, all of them dropped. Every single, I had no income coming in, and I basically had to figure out, is this what I want to do? I can't afford half of the stuff that I've afforded for a number of years now, and it's not that people don't want me, not that they don't want my company, but where I'm at and who I'm working with right now didn't make sense, because that world, the music world, was changing. It was shifting. It's still changing, it's still shifting, but during that time was when it was just starting, and I became kind of the roadkill of that moment. Well, my company did. And so I had to shift, change, rethink, and figure out new clientele, because there were other people that still needed what I was doing and what I brought to the table, and I just had to go out and find those people. And that made my company as strong as it is now. When I didn't have anything and I had nothing but thought processes of who I wanted to be and where I wanted to go in life, that year made my company as strong as it is now. And I'm thankful for 2013. So for me, I've always been creative. My mom is an amazing artist. She's a makeup artist, but even before then, and hairstylist, even before then, she would, when we were children, draw at work, and then when she came home, give us her drawings and put them up. So me and my sister just naturally inclinated toward the art world and wanting to do what mom does. And when I was 14 is when I really, because my whole family, they're all entrepreneurs. They all have taught me and my sister and all of us, cousins, everything, to go after owning your own thing, go after having your own. That's all of them already have their businesses. And when I was 14, me and my mom started our own business, which I was a photographer. Didn't have any training, obviously, at 14. And she was the makeup artist and hairstylist. So she would basically do the makeovers for women. It was kind of like a, what's the name of that? Glamour shots. The glamour shots of Charlotte. So basically, she would do the makeovers for these women. Great job. And then I would shoot them and edit them. And little did I know that would push me towards where I am now. That was my first time getting into Photoshop, into trying to have a discerning eye on what looks good, what doesn't, and all of that were building blocks to making me who I am. At the same time, I was a musician. At the same time, I was dancing. I was in marching band. All of these things kind of combined into being an art director, because I still pull from each of these fields of my life. And I mean, even because I wanted to do all of them, every single one of them. I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to be a photographer. I wanted to sit down at the computer and create graphics. And I basically found this field of art directing combines them all. So it's a love for what I do, because at any given time I could be somebody new. Tomorrow I could have a project where I'm doing something totally different, and that's something that's amazing for me. So I love what I do. I mean, the biggest milestone off gate is being a self-sustained person. It hasn't been any celebrity, it hasn't been any particular project. It's been the fact that I proved to myself in so many ways that I'm able to not have to depend on someone else's company for my well-being, not have to depend on anybody else's ideas, and I can actually make something of these ideas that are always churning in my head. And that has been an amazing thing to actually do, because having a business is hard, and actually having a business that works regardless of failures, that's a milestone. That's a milestone. So when I was starting, I was bullheaded. I thought that the creativity going on in my head is the greatest, and I need to get this down, and what's going on with me and on my vision is what you need to see, and we need to run with this. But that's one thing that you have to step away from. You have to step away from self, because at the end of the day, it's about the client. It's about what the person is trying to get across. And there became a lot of frustration on my end as someone who was an art director that felt they had a lot to bring to the table, and a lot of these outlandish and often scary ideas for clients, and you just wanted them to see what you see and think how you think, and that's just not the case majority of the time. You have to find a way to get across what it is you want to bring to the table and have it said in a way that makes their vision work. So that was the learning curve that I would tell to any aspiring art director, trying to bring your vision in and hook it on to what the client is doing. And a lot of the times you have to let self go. You have to let go all these things that you have in your head on where the end vision is, because at the end of the day, it's all about the client and what they want to get across. So I mean, that's what I have to give to anyone that wants to be a part of the art directing world. Just bring in self, but leave that ego out of it. Hard lesson, but one that floats through life